Adrian, welcome to Off the Clock, and thank you very much for making the time. I mean, you're so hectic, and we have to get you off the clock. I mean, you teach at Gibbs and sometimes overseas. You also, I think, head of African Management Institute.
Center African Management and Markets, yeah.
Yes, and then also you at Genera Capital,
Yeah.
so you're wearing so many caps, and I'm glad that we're able to get you off the clock to relax with you and maybe ask you stuff that is, you know, some of it off the clock in that sense. But I also know that your wife Tash and the kids are overseas. You're pen pals at the moment, so we can talk a little bit about that. So. Before we start, do you have anything to say to us, me and Tlatsi, my son?
Well, can I say congratulations on being a grandpa?
Thank you, man. Thank you very
12
much.
hours into being a grandpa.
yeah,
How many
yeah.
hours?
Yeah, about that, give or take.
It's great to be here with you. Thank you for the invitation. I mean, I've had the incredible privilege of getting to know you and work with you over the last year and a little bit through Summit and Medtronic, so it's been fantastic to do that work with you. And this invitation here to be with you, Mahlatsi and Peter, thank you. What a privilege.
Great. You want to go, Matlatsi? Or Tlatsi, your stage name?
So Adrian, like my dad listed off, you're a man of many things, right? You wear so many hats. So with all the things that you do, how do you de-stress? How do you make time for yourself? Like, what do you enjoy doing? Do you have any hobbies? Do you know what hobbies are? It sounds like you just work. Why don't you give us a little insight to who Adrian is on that side?
What happens the other side of I mean, so, you know, the first thing is, you know, I absolutely, you know, acknowledge or agree, accept, got a lot of things going on. But, you know, the however would be that it's not as if they're competing things. It's not like I'm trying to be a 100-meter sprinter and at the same time, you know, write a classic book. You know, these things commingle and interrelate. So although there's a couple of taglines that belong to them, I would regard it as a system rather than, you know, a whole lot of disparate things. What do I do when I'm not doing that? Well, you know, perhaps one of my challenges or you know, one of the attributes of it is what I do I absolutely love. So if you ask me, like, you know, do I think I'm going to work each day? Like, for the most time, not. I'm going to do the stuff that I just absolutely love. I get incredible delight and satisfaction from the work that I do. But to answer your question seriously, like, what do I do, you know, other times? I've got almost adult kids. My daughter's 20. I suppose she is an adult child. My son is 17. I love spending time with them, you know, and doing things, you know, that young adults do, whether it's taking short vacations, you know, sitting around a table and talking nonsense. But, you know, I'm very involved in their lives. I love playing chess badly. So I'm a chess nerd. I do, you know, in the evenings when I get home from work, I try X times per week, 4 or 5 times per week to go for a run. I play very average squash.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so time with your kids, since like you're here and they're there, how do you, or when you get the time to spend time with your kids, do you divide it up? Do you say, this is my time with my son, or do you just, I'm spending time with both?
Let me fix the geography. So my biological children are here with me, and my stepdaughter lives in Toronto with her mom. That doesn't mean somehow it's suddenly uncomplicated. It's complicated. But my children have lived with me since the beginning of this year, and I would regard myself, in this respect, to be essentially sort of single dad, because I'm in a blended family, and my biological children are with me, not with their mom. Oh, it's noisy. But that's another aspect of my life which I'm deeply thrilled with, the fact that my children live with me. And my daughter, it was my birthday last week, and my daughter wrote me a card which I found incredibly moving. And in it she wrote, "You aren't the dad that went out to fetch milk and never came back." It was like, for me, being in a broken family has been exceptionally difficult. There's no part of it that I would wish on anyone else. It's hard to be in a broken family. Lots and lots of lessons and learnings in that. But the one thing that I will stand up again and again and again for is the battle is worth it, in terms of staying close and connected with my children, to the extent that they now live with me out of their choice.
The things, that you do, Adrian, so many stuff, right? And now you kind of shared a little bit off the clock what you do to connect with your kids. It looks like you're living life of three people, right? Just in terms of what I see, which is good. The ability to kind of, the way you put it, that work is no more work for you, is fun. But from outside in, it looks like
it's manic. Peter, maybe one way of looking at it is that if we've only got one shot at this, I'm going to give it my best possible shot. And if I thought that I was like working myself to death, or this was just impossible, then or there was no part of it that was pleasant or enjoyable, then I understand your perspective. There's absolutely, there's times where you think, wow, I need to press pause here. But in the same breath, I get incredible energy, for instance, from my teaching. I get incredible energy and satisfaction from that. It feeds me.
For me, it sounds familiar. I get asked the same question quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'm in a very comfort zone now to ask somebody that, because often people say, where do you get all the time to do all the things that you like doing, But do you look like forever happy guy, right? Do you get any stress? Do you worry about anything else?
We're going to do therapy.
We can do that a little bit, yeah. I got skills. So.
I look like a happy guy.
You do.
A
happy guy looks like you, like
sure.
Pink shirt.
So, are there things that stress me, cause me anxiety? Without question. I sort of shared with you the fact that I come from, or my marriage failed, and that is unbelievably stressful. That's not a source of happiness. That's a source of unhappiness. It's very hard to make an argument that my relationship failed, but life's good. Can't be that way. What else worries me? I've got I'm a type 1 diabetic. Okay. That's not fun. And the problem with being a type 1 diabetic is it's a permanent management job.
You're telling me?
I'm telling you, I am your customer. Right? So, it's a permanent management job. And I was actually in a medical not too long ago where one of the observations was made that, if there were a condition that you were going to get, the doctor made the comment, the throwaway comment, that this is the one that I wouldn't choose. Because diabetes is just this, it's this permanent challenge of. And when I was diagnosed 20 years ago, so unusually I got adult onset diabetes.
Yeah.
And when I was diagnosed 20 years ago, they told me the cure was 10 years away. And then, 7 years ago, they told me the cure is 10 years. 5 years ago, the cure is 10 years away. 2 years ago, the cure is 10 years away. So it's this rolling 10 years. I've got to ask you, on record, how long is the cure? How far away is the cure?
Don't say 10 years.
Look, ideally, you're putting me on the spot here for me to start telling secrets. Ideally, we want it yesterday, but obviously, incidentally, the person that we spoke prior to this interview, we spoke a little bit about this in terms of saying, when you bring interventions or therapies or medical devices or drugs, you need to vet them and make sure that they heal, they do what they're supposed to do, they don't kill,
Yeah.
So, and I think it's that.
I'm a risk taker. I'll have a go.
Yeah, there are not many of Adrians out there that form a sizable market. And even that, the regulatory, hoops that you have to jump to get it over is something else. Do you sleep well? How well do you sleep?
I sleep like a baby. So
what does that mean?
all of my life, I've been a relatively short sleeper. So, for me, a long night would be 6 hours sleep.
Okay.
And I've just got to preface this and say I'm intimately familiar or aware of all of the research done on sleep and how important this is to well-being. And it's not as if I try to not sleep. If you put me in bed at 11 o'clock, I'll be up at 4. If you put me in bed at 2, I'll be up at 8. So, all of my life, I have been a short sleeper. And but what I can do is I've learned a thing called pilot sleeping, which pilots were trained to do are trained to do during war conditions.
Okay.
And that you can put yourself to sleep within 15 seconds. So if you put me in a spot, you can get in the zone and I can be gone in 15 seconds.
It sounds like you've learned this.
No, he's just old. Give him a chair and he's... and so I'll catch, through the day, I can actually, sit down somewhere for 15 minutes and have a power sleep and feel fully recharged.
Wow.
That's a powerful 15 minutes.
It is. It is.
So some interesting tricks, right? Contrary to popular belief, the older you get, the harder it gets to sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, so Adrian, you sound like a man that's been, before this whole thing started, we were speaking and you guys were speaking about your traveling experiences and all that. So I wanted to ask, do you have any special places you've traveled to around the world? And I know my dad's also going to focus in on you and say, tell me about Africa.
So he's been to what, 40 countries or 40 African countries?
44.
44, okay. Including Eritrea, which is, I absolutely love traveling. And I have a bucket, I suppose if I say it, it's no longer private, but I have a somewhat private bucket list that I want to get to 2 places each year that I've never been to. And that's taken me all around the world. Philippines, Japan, Rwanda, Ghana, Chile, Brazil, Argentina, and I just absolutely love traveling. And for me, the best flavor or variant of traveling is to arrive without a hard itinerary or agenda and just immerse yourself in the place. Walk the streets, find local restaurants.
Feel the culture.
Yeah. And of all of the places that I've visited, I would say that the most fascinating is Japan. And the most livable, the one that if you said to me, it's over, you've got to pack up your bags and choose a country to move to, I think I would choose Argentina.
Ops.
Argentina. Okay, so why Japan, why Argentina? Tell us, what do you love about it?
So Japan, just fascinating because you are so far out of your comfort zone. When you talk about cultural distance, and we need to be very careful with culture, that there's no such thing as a good culture or a bad culture. There's cultural difference. And when you get to Japan, English spoken, almost none. Habits, behaviors, custom, tradition, spectacularly different from what we are used to. And the most magnificent country, clean cities, beautiful landscapes, magnificent parks, just really,
Do you connect with the culture?
No, you don't. I think it would be very hard to assimilate the culture, because it is so distant from what we're used to. So I think it's hard to assimilate. I'm not saying it's impossible, but
I'm sure you love the sushi.
Fantastic.
So which one on the continent?
Must we guess, or do you still need time to?
Still ranking them. It's a professor.
No. So the one
he doesn't just answer.
The work that we do at the Center for African Management and Markets is about trying to understand economic drivers, industrial prospects, the competitiveness of companies inside of countries. And so that's taken me to, not all 22 have been for these projects, but most of those 22 have been going with companies to try and work out what the company and country prospects are, what the industrial drivers are, what's their ability to access that market, what market entry models they should use, and so on. And that's taken me everywhere from Cote d'Ivoire to Rwanda to Mozambique. And I think the one that stands out as being the most impressive in its transition or transformation without question is Rwanda. Without question. Absolutely extraordinary story. The one that I think is most livable would be the one where you've got cultural affinity. Probably Zambia.
Wow.
Yeah. Because we were colonized by the same people, right? And so we've got similar legal systems,
habits,
similar customs, behaviors. We'll laugh at the same jokes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think so, but wow, it's very interesting. I've been to Zambia a few times as well. Not few times, but many times. We've even set up an office there previously. A lot of similarities to South Africa. You're right.
Oh, we could say Zim also.
Yeah, Zim. Most of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other thing that, aside from just like the delight of travel and the experiences, I think the thing that travel really does is it establishes perhaps perspective and it builds network. And I think those are two valuable attributes, or I don't know if they're skills, but if you can get things through life, I would say that perspective, the ability to step back, catch your breath, get off the dance floor onto the balcony, I think like travel gives you that privilege.
Yeah.
And the other thing it does is it gives you network. One of the things that happened, in visiting Latin America, on the first occasion, it struck me that I knew almost nothing of the language. Yet my last name, Saville, is a Spanish origin, Sevilla. Sometimes quite a good football side. Having a horror show of a season this year. But that's the origin of my family name. And, it struck me that I knew nothing of Spanish. And so I've been learning Spanish for the last 4 years.
How's that going?
It's going very, very well.
Okay.
Muy bueno.
Okay.
No, so I can go into a Spanish store, a Chilean store, Argentinian store, and I can order, size 9 brown shoes. I would regard myself today as fluent in Spanish and in business Spanish. So, that's something that's happened out of the circumstance, and I didn't need to do anything, but what I think is quite cool about it is language I have always found incredibly hard to learn.
Are you interested in football or any sport?
We want to go there.
He always wants to go.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. It's easy for me.
So for real, okay, what's your side?
My side,
which means it's Mashlat's side also. No.
that will shock you. I
Okay.
know. Yeah. So
You would think we're divided, but we're not.
we're very tired in a different way. So Arsenal.
Liverpool.
Wow. Okay.
No,
So
it
they-
wasn't always like this.
Okay.
Yeah. It just,
So I follow a couple of the divisions.
is that
in-
how you answer the question? Go the long way.
Okay, I'll go the short way. So in South African football, Premier Football, Orlando Pirates. There's only one side. Yeah, and for the most part, we've got a lot of silverware. So Pirates in South Africa, in English football, hold your breath, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Don't even ask, but it means you can't steal any of our silverware because we don't have any. The last time we had silverware was in 1968.
It's empty cabinet.
And then, of course, I've already given obvious reasons in Spain, it's Sevilla. Just 4. Got to be Sevilla. Which is right at the bottom.
Yeah, but I mean,
Actually, Wolves is also right at the bottom. It's not a good season for me.
but that's what I like and respect. I mean, about that choice, because supporting a team is not about trophies. It's about connection.
It's also passion and
It's the connection and also philosophy and the belief. And I was like,
yeah. Perhaps just like as a backdrop, when I was diagnosed type 1, I felt like my world had collapsed because my food pyramid got inverted, and I was told that everything that I loved was now off the menu, and the things that I didn't really, regard as my core diet was now the stuff. And this was the world of carb counting.
yes, I remember that.
And it's got to be, potatoes and rice, brown rice. This was the carb counting world. I think when we look backwards, that science might have been misguided. And 10 odd years ago, I got into the world of paleo, doing almost no carbs. And then, is that what it's called? That feels like I've said the wrong word there. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, no carbs, yeah.
Yeah. And more recently, I've gone into intermittent fasting. And usually if I couldn't make it past breakfast without being grumpy. Now for me it's unusual to have a day where I'll stop eating, I'll have dinner at, let's say, I'll have my last thing to eat at perhaps 8 o'clock.
Okay.
On a later night, maybe 9 or 10. And then the first time I'll eat will be 1, 2 the next day. So, every day, my habit, my custom now is to do 14, 16 hours intermittent fasting.
Wow. Even with your condition, that's powerful.
And so, Peter, the interesting thing is through that my calorie intake has fallen because of the intermittent fasting, and my insulin intake has fallen because I'm not having to inject for at least 1, sometimes 2 meals a day. So, I think on balance, it has been incredibly good for me.
So with the intermittent fasting, outside of the whole how it affected you with the diabetes and all that, like your overall health, like the body and all that being active, how has that impacted you?
What, diabetes?
No, the fasting. The fasting.
Oh, no.
Intermittent
So
fasting.
I think it's been really good for me. The diabetes, I mean, that's a curse. You've got to always have some glucose handy.
Coke.
No, my go-to is jelly tots, because I know exactly what the glucose content is of half a pack of jelly tots. So that's like my go-to solution.
Jelly tots.
Yeah, there's the free advertising, sponsored by. I mean, probably doesn't look like it right now, given my glow, but growing up in Durban, I surfed. And one of my favorite holiday destinations is to take a surfboard, go to Komaki and spend a month there, which means you're at backline with a chocolate
in
bar.
the Cape?
In the Cape, yeah. A great white territory. But that you're surfing, you've got a chocolate bar with you in case you go low, and that's the thing that scares me about diabetes, is getting into the place where you've like lost control of your mind. Like you've got to be I have to be impeccable in managing it. But the intermittent fasting in my physical health, I think it's been really, really good for me. Yeah, so the investment industry, I mean, this is where I grew a business over 20 years. I started the company in the late 1990s. And I think I can proudly say it became a very well-regarded boutique investment firm. But what I learned through that experience is I think our industry is disingenuous, that the investment industry parades itself as something that's not quite on offer, and that they advertise things that are psychologically or behaviorally seductive. I'm going to take you to a magical place. You're going to retire fantastically. I'll beat the market, and amazingly, everyone can somehow beat the market. So it's an industry that, and this is not. I'm not being specific to South Africa. This is a global attribute. Is we advertise things as an industry that simply aren't available.
Or possible.
They're possible. They are possible, but there are 2 reasons why they are not available. The one is because, as a collective, the entire industry can't beat the market. Someone has to win for the other person to lose, or someone has to lose for the other person to win. It's a zero-sum game, yet it is presented as somehow everyone's a winner. That's the disingenuous part of the positioning or the advertising. The second is, even if it were possible to achieve these fantastic outcomes, a huge amount of the investment industry is shaped by the behavior or the misbehavior and dysfunction of both investment managers and their clients. And that's what I've made almost like a purpose in my investment management, in my teaching, and in my writing, is how do we understand the origins of our dysfunction, and how do we manage it better? Because if we can change those behaviors, then extraordinary things can happen. I mean, I'm saying a lot here. You can edit this down if you don't like it, but I'll give you an example of one of the most powerful things that any person can do is save, and the saving is the origin of investment or the source of investment, and save whatever amount they can and get going as early as possible. Because by doing that, you get the most powerful ingredient, which is called compounding.
Yeah, just grow.
Yeah, and that is a dysfunction that we don't like saving, because saving means we're starving our present self of something that would be much more fun. Yeah. A nicer shirt, better bottle of wine,
Whiskey.
Whiskey.
Yeah. So yeah, with that, any parting shots? Maybe let's start with you, Tlati. Any parting words to our guest here?
Honestly, been a pleasure, Adrian, meeting you today, speaking with you. Like you look like you're always happy. Like my dad said. You bring the energy to the room, and I'm happy to have met you and happy to have had this conversation with you.
Brilliant to be with you. Thank you for the invitation.
And from
Yeah.
you, Adrian, any parting shots? Anything to us?
No, you know, I just think that these conversations that you're having are so rich, and you know, I'm to be invited here to do this. Like I feel like a little bit of an imposter. You know, I'm not. But I mean, thanks for the invitation, and good luck with the Arsenal thing.
Ouch. So yeah, I mean, thank you very much for taking the time. I mean, the passion, the Argentina story kind of resonated well with me, and also, I mean, good luck with Saville and Orlando Pirates. I wish you, I wish you well,
And Wolves.
thank you very much.